All right, so that would be because everything was muted. So that would be why. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and switch that back over to my other microphone. That's better. I was like, what is this little red X here? Oh, it's because it's muted. That's fun. All right. Sorry about that. All right, let's go ahead and turn that music down just a little bit because I was testing with it. Yay! Thanks for joining. Thanks for putting up with me for that moment of incompetency, trying to figure out how to actually get streaming working. Um, so, as we're going to be talking about today, Printventory has been released to the wild for version 2, which is something that we've been working on for the last year. So around this time last year, we released the first version of it, and then over the past few months, past year, we've been working on the next iteration of it, which is what we're calling V2 version 2 of Printventory. So today we're going to go through a couple of new things that it has. We're going to kind of give an overview of what the solution is for those that haven't seen it in the past, and we're going to highlight some of the new things that it has to offer as well. So, just out of curiosity in chat, if you've tried Printventory in the past, go ahead and just throw an emote in the chat, thumbs up or whatever. Kind of interested to see who's used it and who's checked it out before, and if you have any feedback or anything. So, again, this is kind of question and answers. So as we go through here, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know that as well. And yeah, we'll just kind of keep this fun, keep this open, keep this entertaining. Not gonna probably be on here too long, maybe like an hour, and then yeah, just check it out and see. We do have a Discord if you want to provide feedback through there as you're going to use it. On the website, there's a link to our Discord, as well as a link to the solution and downloading it. So in the chat, I pinned the comment for downloading the application. But if you go to printventory.com, we have a Windows build, we have a Mac build, we now have a Linux build, which is something that was asked for, and then we have 2 experimental ones now too. So we have the Docker. So if you want to run it on your NAS or on your network and be able to do network management, and we also have a server mode, which kind of acts as the same thing. So making more for remote management. Those 2 are experimental. We're still working through some of the bugs in them, but we're definitely looking for testers and people that are interested in trying that section out. But so let's go ahead and just walk through real quick what Printventory is for those that aren't familiar with it. So Printventory is a software solution for managing your 3D model library. So the reason why I came up with this was some of you have probably heard this story before, but I woke up one morning after the evening before trying to find a model. I knew I had the Fix 'em Dude fire truck on my computer. I knew I had already downloaded it, and I wanted to make some for a nonprofit that I was donating them to, and could not find it in my downloads directory. So everything that I do, basically dump into my downloads directory. So I couldn't find it, and so I just decided to go out there and re-download it. And when I downloaded it, it said, Fix 'em Do Fire Truck 4 or something like that. So I knew I had 4 other copies in the download directory, and I had no idea why. Search didn't work. Windows search is becoming less and less useful, it seems like. So I was like, okay, well, there has to be a way to be able to inventory these. So I started. My initial design for this was just basically a spreadsheet that I could use to help find the stuff. It was a really rudimentary solution for just personal use. And as I started, mentioning it to a couple people, they said, "Hey, yeah, I have that same thing. That sounds like an amazing idea." And so I started putting more and more time into it, and kind of came up with the initial design for it. And with the initial design came iterations. We have an amazing group of beta testers that provide great feedback and provide, you know, load testing. I thought my inventory of a couple hundred model files was pretty big, but we have people in the Discord that came in and they have 10,000 plus models in their library. So stuff like that I couldn't have comprehended when I first started it with it, but at the same time, it's pretty awesome to see that the more you scale it up, the more there's a need for something like this. So everything's free, everything's open source. The source code's out on GitHub now. So if you want to check it out, if you want to contribute, the source code's out there. The GitHub link is on the Printventory page, I believe, and if not, then you can get to it from the application. We'll show that here in a minute. Or you can just do GitHub Printventory, and you'll find it on Google. But so the code's out there. Nothing's hidden. This is free. This community supported. I do have a Patreon. There's a couple people that have supported me on Patreon, kind of helping out the effort. Pretty much everything that I make so far on this through affiliate links and through Patreon has went right back into it. And kind of a couple of goals that we want to achieve are things like getting code signing for Mac. So we'll talk about that when we go to do the install. But right now, if you go to install it on Mac, you have to say it's on a trusted provider because things like those certificates are a couple $100 a year to get code signing on Mac. Things like that I kind of want to get a little bit more polished up going forward. But as I look at the market and look at things like Orca, even they don't even do that. You have to do the same, jump through hoops to get Orca installed on Mac OS. So it's kind of a, if you're a Mac user, it's kind of known that there are those types of things nowadays. But let's go ahead and take a look at the software. So again, download it on printventory.com. You install it. It's a desktop solution, or like I said, there are server modes now. We'll touch on that a little bit more later, but you get into it, and the first thing that you're going to get, so if I come in here, and the first thing that you get when you start it up is you get presented with our quick start guide, and this kind of walks you through how to use it. So I highly recommend, if you've not used it before, to take some time and walk through the quick start guide, because it does give some useful hints, useful tips. And this is just kind of a wizard that you walk through. Talks about scanning, talks about editing the details, talks about filtering and searching, all things that are key components of the application, and then talks about some of the other things, like we've now added some theming, which we'll check out. We have the ability to do print from or send a slicer, and now we have things like the tag manager, which is a new one that we'll talk about as well. So there's some new features in here, but this kind of just talks about how you use each of the components in there, and you can get to this anytime through the help, but this does pop up when you first open the app. The first thing you do when you get in here is scan directory. So when you come in here, this is going to be blank. It's going to say scan the directory to begin. You come over here, click scan directory, and this is going to be your folder where your 3D models are. You can scan as many directories as you want, so you can continue. You can build out your library. It doesn't have to just be one folder. You can scan as many directories as you want. It brings them into the platform to be able to go in there and inventory and manage them. So I don't know if you can see it, but it basically opens up a Windows Select dialog. And if I come in here and select like my STLs directory, let's see, let's open this up, go to my STLs directory. And it's going to go out there and scan, and it's going to bring it in. If you have new, welcome in everybody. Welcome in Jano. Welcome in 3D Medic Vince. If you have new models that pop up, so you can actually set this up to scan every time you open up the application, which we'll show, and once we get into the settings. But if there are new models, this is something that's new, it'll actually show them to you. So I added a couple models to it. It'll bring it up. You'll notice that in the new version, scanning's a lot different. It's a lot quicker to scan, and then it kind of renders the thumbnails in the back end. So in the first version, if you had hundreds and hundreds of models, it would take you'd have to just sit there and let it sit, let it churn through it, and eventually they would get there. Now it does it all in the background. So scanning, bringing your models in initially, so you can start doing sorting, you can start doing all of the initial stuff, is almost instant now. It's very, very, very quickly. Once you have it in, again, these are the new ones that were just added. So uh, if I was doing it, if this was the real thing, and I was using this, there are a couple of new features that exist in the 2.0 version. One of them is you'll see that we now have multiple. So you'll see that this new little number down here. That means that there's multiple images for that particular thumbnails or for that particular model. So in the event of a 3MF, we actually go into the 3MF file and we pull in the images that are in there, because a lot of times there's preview images of either the build plate or the model, or even actual pictures of the completed project, depending on what the designer puts into that 3MF file. And we can pull those into here now. And we also pull in a lot of the metadata, which this one didn't, but we'll look at an example of it. It'll actually, if the metadata in the 3MF has the designer, has the parent model, has the description, anything like that in it, we'll actually pull that in and automatically populate that. Now you can control what those are. You can do that. You can do that separately by picking, I only want designer, I only want license, whatever it might be, and we'll look at what that looks like in the settings as well. But you can actually come in and cycle through what the thumbnail that you want to use, and when you pick one, that'll become the thumbnail going forward until you go to select a different one. I can also right click and say add image, and I can add my own picture to this as well. So if I want to add another picture of this particular model because I've actually printed it and I want to have my picture in there, you can do that for any of these. So you can add additional images to it now. So that's a new feature in 2.0. So you can kind of start making this library your own. So if it's something that you printed before, you're probably already adding it to things and things like that. Go ahead and just add your picture to here as well. So that way you'll have it. You can kind of get a better understanding of what that model is. And that becomes that thumbnail going forward. Then once you have that, so if you come over here for those that are new, I can come back and view entire library. It'll bring me to all my models that are in my library. Actually, I didn't. Let me scan my bigger directory so that way I get some 3MF files that are in here. I'm gonna do my entire downloads directory. So you'll see kind of how quick this is. The first thing it does is goes and gets kind of an inventory of all the files. So in this case, I selected my entire downloads directory in this computer, and now I have 916 models that are new. And you'll see that I'm going to say no for this one, but you'll see that I'm actually pulling in some pretty interesting pictures that are useful that were in that were in that 3MF file. And you'll see in this is a good example of one that, because I pulled that in, it had the 3MF metadata in it. It has the designer. It has the parent model, which this is basically just the model name, like that it would be on Maker World or whatever. And it also pulled in the license type, so it actually pulled these in automatically without me having to do anything. So that's one of the cool things about how intelligent the 3MF files are getting, is they have a lot of information packed in them. And as Vicky said in chat, if you ever want to have fun with a 3MF file and you're kind of curious what's in it, just rename it to a zip file and you can open it up and you can see what's all in there. Some of them are more rich than others, but generally if you get them from like Maker World or something like that, they're packed full of information. So they're packed full of like the model pictures. If I come through here, they probably have no, I guess that one doesn't. Sometimes you'll get the bed plate image and things like that. And they also have the 3D model file, I think it's called, which is just a JSON file that has all of the metadata that's in it as well. So you can kind of get a lot of information from there. One of the other new things before we move on to some of the features and sorting and things like that is we now have 3 new views. So this is kind of the default view that we always kind of had before. It's polished up a little bit. You know, you can kind of scroll through and see, you know, some of them are still rendering, but this is kind of the view that we're all used to if you're used to version 1. But now we have a preview view, which kind of gives you a smaller view if you're just interested in what the model looks like, and don't want all that extra metadata, and you want to fit more on the screen. You can use the preview view, and then probably my favorite is the list view, which kind of gives you a explorer type of list for all of the different models that you have in there, with the designer, with the tags if you have tags associated with it, and with the model image as well. So there are a couple of new views that are in there. One of the asks that we had that I'm going to work on in the short term is being able to click on the names or click on the headers here and be able to sort by them. You can do that now by the sort by list, but it's kind of intuitive when you see something like this to be able to click on the headers and be able to sort by it. But let's go back over to detailed view, because I think it's probably a little bit easier to see in the context of the small window that's being shared. For each one of these, you right click on it and you get a menu. You can see that we have open file, so this is just going to open it in whatever your default 3D model system setup is. So if you have MakerWorld, or if you have Bamboo Labs set up to open up STLs and 3MF files, it's going to open up that. Open Directory will take you to a file explorer and point you directly to that file. Pull metadata for 3MF files kind of just redoes that process of going and getting that metadata from those 3MF files. So if you're migrating from version 1 to version 2, you don't have to rescan your entire environment. Or your entire system. You can come in here, get all your 3MF models filtered by, and then do a pull metadata, and it'll go in there and pull that information in. And then add image, what I was talking about earlier, being able to add the image to that, so you can have as many images as you want associated with any of your models. And then remove from library, delete from disk. These are kind of system level things. This will move it to a new directory. I've had a couple people recently ask me about moving. They want to sort all of these. They want to get them organized, and then they want to move them to a different directory out of the downloads directory or whatever. So you select move, you pick your destination folder, and you're able to move all those on the file system, move all of those models to that. Remove from library just removes it from the library, keeps it on the disk. And then delete from disk deletes it from the library and the disk. So this is kind of your standard menu. And then we'll look at some more advanced options when we start enabling some of the different things that we can enable within the settings things. On the left-hand side, we have a couple of different things. We have some fun tools here. We have dedupe that we'll look at in a moment. We have the tag manager, and we have print roulette. So this kind of randomly picks a model from what's shown on the screen. So if you're trying to figure out what you want to print and you're facing print block, maybe you come in here and search by fidget or something like that, and you can go in there and have it randomly pick you a model, which is kind of fun. And then down here, this hasn't changed much. It's optimized a little bit because there was some bugs in the version 1 around searching and filtering. But same thing that we could do before. So if I just wanted to see my my spool holders, come in here, type it in. Now I get all of my ones that match that. This is searching by any of the metadata that's around the item. So the file name, the file directory path, any tags that might be associated with it, any model that might be in it. So that's kind of a global search there. And then down here, if I wanted to filter by a particular designer, I pick that. Brings me back just the models with that designer. With the detailed view, we can also filter by clicking on the metadata, which is nice. So if you don't want to, again, we've always been able to do it by directory. So if I want to just bring up all the files that are in that directory, I can click the directory name here, and it'll show me all the files in there. And this is really good if you're getting started organizing. So if you have extracted files, and those have the model name in there, and they have the designer name in there, you can sort everything by the parent folder, and then you can start doing things like tagging and stuff like that from there. we'll get to tags in a minute, but when you click on a model, it takes you to the model details. So there's a couple changes here as well. Um, we have the same thing that we had before, printed. So if you're going through and sorting what you're printing, you can come in here. Yeah, so Karen, the print roulette button is essentially that. So it's going to go through. So if I come up here and click that now, it's going to bounce around and it's going to pick from the ones that have been selected, and it kind of gives me a little dialogue that I don't know if you can see that says your next print has been chosen. Go ahead and time to get printing. So it kind of does the randomness there and kind of helps you figure out what you might want to print if you're trying to figure that out. Coming back down to the model details, we've changed the way that the directories are previewed a little bit, and you can click on these directories and actually open up the path in Explorer. So again, if you're the kind of person that has your models sorted by directory today, this kind of makes it a little bit more useful. Source URL, this used to be just called source, and the idea for this originally was to allow you to put your path or your URL that you downloaded the model in there, like the MakerWorld link or the things link. And originally, for about the first couple of weeks, we were able to click a button and actually go out there and pull down the model name, the designer name, the license, the description, and all of that information. But because of all of the scams that are going around for 10,000 models for $2 on Facebook that you see all the time, all of those sites have enabled pretty strict anti-bot technology, so you can't just go out there and hit the page anymore. There's so much obfuscation, so that kind of broke that. But what this allows you to do now, if you want to put in the URL of where you got the model at, you can click this button here and it'll launch it in a browser, so you can go out there and get the details, which is nice because if you want to share a make of something or something like that, you can put that. I'm going to be working on in the future, working on some sort of like maybe browser extension or something that if you download a file from MakerWorld or things or printables, automatically add it to the library and automatically populate the source field. I've started playing around with that already, and have it as a browser extension, so that should be kind of fun. But that's what that source field's now for today. And then there's the designer, parent model, license, and that type of thing. A lot of people are kind of confused a lot around what parent model is. The parent model is essentially the way I use it. You can use these in any way you want, but the way I use this is a lot of times there'll be multiple parts within a model. The parent model is what the model name would be on print, on whatever the print site that you got it at. So if it's a multi-part model, they roll up into a single print model. Tags. We'll talk about tags when we get into AI tagging, but you can actually add as many tags as you want. So if I know that this is, spool holder, I can tag it as a spool holder, and now that's part of that. And I can again search on this. I can sort by this. I can apply this tag to other models if I want to. And it's just another way of sorting things. We have AI tagging, which we'll look at in a moment. But just another way of sorting. And then the notes field. This is pulled for 3MFs. This is pulled from the description. But it's just you can put any information that you want in here. I've had people put print settings. I've had people use this for HueForge and put in the HueForge settings that need to be done. And what we did is we added, there was always kind of this small box, but now we can make that box bigger and see the more expanded details about that. So it's a little bit more useful in the new version. So that's kind of the base utilization of it. So again, it's finding, sorting, and that finding, classifying, and sorting is kind of the three steps to it. So you go out there, you discover your files, you start organizing them by applying things like the parent models, the designers, the tags, so on and so forth. And then, when it comes time to actually try to find it, again, instead of having to use Windows search that sucks or trying to dig through a file that has, 10,000 STLs in it or anything like that, you can just come in here and do a global search and find exactly what you need. So it's like super quick, super easy to do. And then you can start getting into some of the more advanced things if you want to. So let's take a look at the settings. So the settings menu has some new things in it. We'll just start from the top down. Even though AI configuration isn't new, there's some new features in here. We've always had AI tagging, and it's kind of a bring your own model type of methodology. You know, if you had Gemini, you could use your Gemini key. If you have OpenAI, you can use your OpenAI key. People have used their own private LLMs that they run on their computers at home. And you can pick that service by here. So you come into here, you select which service it is. It gives you the configuration that you pick. One of the ones that I've discovered recently, and I was extremely happy to find that actually works with this platform, is there's an open AI model, or there's an open AI platform called pewter.com that lets you do free queries to OpenAI and a couple of other services. And they offer a free API to be able to access those services. So if you come in here and you want to start using AI tagging, but you don't have a service in mind, or you don't want to go in there and configure it, now you may hit some limitations. I haven't hit any yet, but because it is a free service, they don't guarantee service and things like that. But that's this pewter.com one. So I think that's selected by default, but if you wanted to come in here and configure it, you could select that. These auto-populate for each of these different ones. You can change the models if you want to, but you have to make sure that your model supports image analysis, because that's what it's doing. It uploads the thumbnail, it looks at the thumbnail, it classifies it, and then it returns those back as tags. We have some configurations that can be done here. So if I want to do 5 tags only, I can select the level of detail on the tags. So if I want, super detailed tags, but that there's going to be more unique tags at that point, you can specify, high level of detail. So you kind of play around with those. Merge strategy. So if there's tags that exist, what are you going to do? Do you want to replace? Do you want to merge them? Merge is the default one. Category-based tagging, this kind of goes by things like material and object type. So if it's a toy, or if it's a tool, or if it's a bracket or something like that, you can actually pull back those rather than just having tags that are related to the model itself. And then allow retagging. So what we do is when we tag the model, we put a tag that says AI tagged on that model. So if you run it again and you don't have this box check, it's going to skip that. So that lets you just keep running them over and over. And then this kind of just does the sequentialness of their, how many simultaneous models do you want to process at once? And this is a limitation of both your system as well as the LLM that you're using. You don't want to flood the requests, because then you'll start getting, your quota hit for the minute or whatever it might be. So once you've configured them, click test. This goes out there, and you can't see it on mine, but with the pewter.com, the first time you hit test, it pulls up a window, and it has me essentially accept the terms and verify that I'm a human for Pewter. And then once that's done, it comes back. It says my API was successfully completed. Now I can click save. And when I do that, what that will then do is give me a new right-click context menu that says generate tags. So if I select this model here and say generate tag, I can do this by one or many. So I kind of skipped over the multi-select part, which we'll look at in a moment. But you'll see that it automatically took this, sent this to the model, came back with these 5 tags. I can pick and choose which ones I want to apply to this. Like if I don't really care that it's functional, I can uncheck that. If I don't know what a pack is, but bearing and part and mechanical is probably good. And then apply selected tags. So once you've applied it, you get a confirmation, and now that part has those tags associated with it. And if I wanted to do multiple, there's a couple of different ways that I could do that. You can come in here and say enable multi-select mode, and now when I click on them, you can see that there'll be multiple things selected. It's because I have a clear filter. There we go. If I do multi-select mode, it lets me select more than one. I can edit, but I can also now enter multi-select mode by doing Control-Click, just like you would do in a file browser. and I can do Control A to select all, just like you would do in a file browser. You can do Escape to clear them out. So there's some keyboard shortcuts that have been added to kind of make your life easier. But if we came down, let's do these two spool holders. So if we come here, click there, click here, right click, generate tag, we kind of see the same thing, and you'll see that it shows you kind of the progress as they're generating the tags. And I can do that same thing that I did earlier, go through and select which ones I want to select, click apply, and now I have those additional tags applied to that. So that's kind of the new AI tagging mechanism. If you want to play around with it, the Pewter one, pewter.com, is a great one. Just know that, you know, you're sending that information to OpenAI. So if it's something that's proprietary or something like that, you might want to look at a more private model. That's entirely up to you. But there is that feature. File type, this is exciting. So one of the number one asks that we had for version 1 was to be able to support zip files. So every model site today, when you go out there and download a model, it pretty much always downloads a zip now. You have to go through there, you have to extract the zip, and then now you have the folder on your computer that has the files in there. So if you had that and you didn't have the zip extracted before, you know, you didn't know that you necessarily had that file on there. Now in file types, it's not enabled by default because it does slow down the scan process a little bit. But if you're going to use this, I would recommend coming in here, selecting enable zip support. That lets you look inside of a zip file to see what models are in there. But the other cool thing that zip support adds is you no longer have to extract that zip to your computer to be able to print it. So if you have a model in a zip file and it exists in your library, you can still right-click and open that, or right-click and open that in Slicer, which we'll talk about in a moment, and it will send that. It'll basically load that model into temporary storage and then send that to the Slicer to be able to go and print from it without having to extract it, which is great. I love that feature. And then down here, we talked about the 3MF pulling. This allows you to have some control around that. So we can do the designer, we can do the parent model. You can pick and choose what metadata comes over from the 3MF. So I've had people say, you know, I don't really want the parent model to come over, or I don't want the designer to come over, or I use my own notes. This gives you a little bit of control around that. So now that that's selected for zip, let's go ahead and see. I want to rerun that scan. And it's probably going to take a moment because I'm doing my entire downloads directory at this point. But you'll see that I had 207 more models that were inside of zip files, and you'll see how quick that came back. But now that I did that, you'll see that there's a little archive icon in the top corner. That means that these were in zip files. And so I can right click and I can say extract model. I can extract the zip archive if I want to extract the entire zip. I can, you know, do the same things I did earlier with generating tags. I can add images to it. I can open it up. And so you get the flexibility of not having to extract that each time, which is great. The other thing that we can do is, so one of the things that I kind of just wanted to touch on was when you open this up by default, we have a max file size of 50 megs for your files. This was there in version 1 as well, but I've had people come to support and say, you know, this doesn't seem to be getting all my files. And when we look at it, the number one reason why it's usually not there is because it's like a 120 megabyte STL file or something like that, and it's just being skipped because of the file size. This lets you adjust that. 50 is pretty conservative, but if you do a lot of resin printing, some of those files are massive. You may want to step this up, just knowing that the scanning process is going to take a little bit longer and it's going to be a little bit more system intensive as it generates those thumbnails and things like that. And then slicer path. So this allows you to onboard slicers to the application. So if you're just using Windows, you know, you have your right click, you have your open, you can go to open with in you know, say like Windows File Explorer. This is kind of that feature, but lets you add all of your slicers to it. So if you have Prusa Slicer, if you have Bamboo Studio, if you use Orca, if you use, you know, whatever it might be, most slicers are supported. Some aren't, that don't support passing the slicer through variables or through parameters. Like I think 3D Builder was the one that we couldn't. If it's 3D Builder installed from the Microsoft Store, you can't pass it a file and have it open it. But all you do is add a file, give it a name, So let's hit Bamboo Studio. You select the exe for that. So if you click here, again, I don't think you can see the file dialog, but it's going to be, selecting the exe for Bamboo Studio. Program files, Bamboo Studio, bamboostudio.exe. And now if I say, and I can add as many of these as I want. So if I wanted to add Orca, if I wanted to add Prusa, you click save. And now what you have is, instead of just open file, you have open in slicer, and you can pick your slicer. So again, just adding more flexibility, adding more capability to be able to pick and choose where you want to open that file at. And again, across all the different, model types, and as well as within zip files. The STL home, this hasn't changed much from version 1, but what this lets you do, I think this is probably more usable now that scanning's a lot quicker. But if you come in here and select like your directory, so if I just come in and select my downloads directory, and I want to add that as my STL home, anytime I open up the application, it's going to scan that directory, and it's going to let me know if there's new models in there in that directory. So again, useful for keeping it up to date if you don't want to have to rescan it every time you come in here. And now that scanning is almost instant, there's really no reason why you wouldn't want to go in there and do that. And then theme, this is kind of exciting. So before, we had the ability to change the background color for the models, but there really wasn't much beyond that for theming your solution. So now we have themes. So the default one is the cyan, but say I want to make it orange, and I want to make my background of my my models dark gray. I can do that, and it basically just applies a theme across your tool. Just kind of makes it look how you want to look at. So if you want your favorite color to be there, you have the capability of doing that. That's just something that's kind of fun, makes it yours. If I want to just make everything really dark and kind of boring, I can do that, and have it kind of my own. So that's the theming. It's fun. It's kind of just a nice thing to have, just to kind of make it your own. So that's pretty much all of the settings that we have. That's the new settings. Again, if you're coming in here and checking it out the first time, make sure you check out the AI config. Make sure you check out the file types. Check that zip box. Highly recommended. And then come in here and make it your own with a theme. Underneath tools, there hasn't been a whole lot in here that's well, I guess there has been a couple of new things in here, but print roulette, deduplication. Our print roulette's the thing we showed earlier. Deduplication. Now when you go into dedupe, we're not collecting hash files at scan, which is one of the ways we make it quicker. So when you go into dedupe the first time, it comes in here and it wants you to generate the file hashes. So you'll see that it's kind of generating them. It's still pretty quick, but it's a one-time thing. So you'll see that scanning. This is going and calculating the file hash for all your files. Because again, deduplication isn't just looking at the file name. We actually go to the file hash level. So if you had two files that were completely different names, you can still do deduplication against them. And this will also look at things that are across your entire operating system. And if you want to include ones that are in the zip files, you can do that as well. So if you only want to keep the ones that are in archives, because that's the smaller file, that's probably the more efficient way, you can check this box and it will show you the ones that are in archives as well. So you can go through and clean up maybe the ones that aren't. And all you got to do is just select the checkbox here and just say delete selected, and it deletes it from your hard drive after confirmation. So really good way to come in here and clean it up and not have to worry about, are the file names the same? Do they match up? Because it's going to do it at the file hash level, and you get a nice screenshot. Some of the ones are still loading, but for the most part, you'll get the screenshots for those, kind of show you what they look like. And then also under tools, we have a couple of new ways of managing your metadata. So we had the tag manager before, which lets us bulk add, remove, do cleanup on the tags and things like that. So if I wanted to create a new tag that was, fidget or something like that, I can add a tag, and now it becomes available in that list that I can associate with a model. If I want to delete one, like if I want to delete this parts tag, I just click there. It lets me know that there's one model using the tag. Are you sure you want to delete it? Cleans that up. But now we also have the metadata manager, which is similar, but for designers, parent models, licenses. So in here, if I wanted to, rename built over bot to something like, hit the built over bot, I can do that, and it changes it across the board. I can delete this from all models. I can merge these. So if I wanted to, if I had two models in two entries in here, so this is kind of important if you're doing the metadata pulling, because the formatting of the formatting of the designer name might not always be the same. So if like Felix the Whale, if I knew that was a built over model, I could come in here and say, again, do built over bot, and it will merge that. So to let me know that there's already exists. Do I want to merge it? Click merge, and it will merge it with that existing one. Just kind of help clean up stuff as you go along. And that's available for all of the 3 different types of metadata. So parent models, and the license type as well. So, so if you wanted to delete all of the models by a designer, you would come in here, you would sort by, you would do a filter. So if I wanted to come in and pick built over bot, do Control A, right click, remove from library, remove from disk is how you would do that. You wouldn't do that from the metadata manager. So that's just controlling the data level. That's not doing anything with the actual models themselves. Also under tools, we have backup and restore. So in here, there's a new feature. So before we had the ability to back up your database file and restore your database file, which I recommend you do, somewhat frequently, especially if you're doing a lot of organization, just to kind of make sure you have a backup of it, or if you get a new computer or so on and so forth. But we can also now back up the JSON. So this lets me export the library as a JSON file that has the tags associated with the models. So if you're doing a migration, or if you need to bulk change something, if you need to do anything like that, you can come in here, export the library. It creates a text file that you can either go use AI to say, hey, I want to change all of my built over bot models from license A to license B, or something like that. And then you can import that back into here, and it'll do kind of a merge the models into the library, update the ones that have been existing, and things like that. So this is just another way. People were using the database file, and they were using a SQLite Studio, and they were doing some of this, but it was kind of funky because the tag database is a separate database or separate table, and so there was some lookups that needed to happen. But this lets you kind of do that. So cool way if you want to look at all your information. You can do that from here. If you want to, use it in a different tool or anything like that, it gives you a standard JSON model that you can download. And then we have, these are more just cleanup. So regenerate thumbnails. If you do a migration and you want to pull in all of those, additional thumbnails that are inside of 3MF files, if you're coming from version 1.0, you may want to come in here and do regenerate thumbnails. If you have missing thumbnails because something happened during the scan process, you can generate missing thumbnails, and you can purge all your models if you want. So that cleans up all your models from your database and starts from scratch. And then under help, we got the quick start guide, which I showed at the beginning. We now have some library statistics, kind of shows you your breakdown of your 3MF to STLs, shows you a breakdown of your designers as far as how complete your metadata is. So if you want to get all of your models tagged with designers, you can kind of see in here I'm doing a bad job because mine are, 1% of my models have designers associated with them. And then things like your most used tags and stuff like that. So kind of just a fun statistic type of view. And then down here we have a link to our Discord. Again, if you need help, if you want to join our beta, join our Discord and let me know. I'll add you to the beta role. We have a Patreon. Again, just supporting. The support Printventory has a link to all of our affiliate links. So part of how I kind of make this, I don't know, I think I made like $10 off affiliates and things like that over the past year. But if you want to buy, say, if you're going to go buy a new Snapmaker, or you're going to go buy a new Prusa, and you want to support the project, come in here, go to the support page and use the affiliate link that's there for that product. There's been a lot of companies that have been really great at helping out with us. The GitHub link takes you to our GitHub page. And then down here we have server mode. So something that I haven't talked about other than right at the very beginning is one of the new things that we added is a server mode that lets you run this from a server and manage the models from like a network path. So UNC path. So if you have models on your network on a network share, you can use server mode and then you can access that from any computer. And that server mode also has a Docker component too, if you want to run it in Docker, if you want to run it on a Synology or something like that. All of that information is available on the GitHub if you're interested. Still very much experimental. We're working through a lot of bugs in it, but it's something that's been asked for a while that kind of centralizes this management. Because right now, if you just run the desktop mode, it's tied to the files that are on your system. So if you copy it to another system, and those file paths are different, it's not going to be a whole lot of use. But if you're using network shares, it's a great way of managing those. If you have a NAS that has all of your models on it, then why not throw it up there, run the server mode, and be able to connect to it remotely. You just basically load it up into a browser at that point, and you can access everything that you've seen today, for the most part. So that is kind of the high level overview of the tool. Is there any questions in chat? Anything else people want to see? Any ideas? We have feature request area in our Discord that we kind of help prioritize when new things want to come in. But again, is there anything that people have questions around? Anything that you'd like to see? Any, again, future ideas? This is community driven. I've been kind of the primary developer of it, but the ideas that come in through the Discord and all of the amazing beta testers have been invaluable to getting it where it is today. So I think all of you, I know you, I've seen a couple of names in chat. Who you are. Putting up with me pushing out three or four different versions in a day as we quickly go through and iterate through bug fixes and stuff like that. It's been a really good time, and I'm super happy to where it's came from version 1 to version 2. Because version 1, again, if I were to scan this directory that has 1,100 models on it in version 1, we'd probably be sitting here for, 10-20 minutes while it sit there and inventoried them. So being able to, as soon as it clicked and we were able to get it to almost instantly scan those people that have 100,000 models in their directories, it was extremely gratifying. I took some time off over the summer because I kind of got burned out, but I'm so glad I came back to it because it is something that I use almost every day, and I love seeing people getting use out of it as well. So. Reddit, yeah. I did. So I did share it to Reddit when I came out version 2. They're not always that bad, but and there's some. I think one of our best beta testers for the Docker version came over from the Reddit post, and he's been very giving great feedback because I'm not an expert at all these technologies, so it's great to have some insight into how to do it and things like that. So no, the streamer contest platform is a different thing I'm working on, Built Over Bot. That's not this one. So well, cool. I've been on for, I know it took me a little bit to get up and going, but I kind of wanted to throw the stream together to, again, highlight what's new, make sure the community was aware that it exists, welcome anybody that has feedback, big or small. If you have some grandiose idea that you think would benefit the community and benefit the platform, I'd love to hear it. And then again, as you're using it, if you have bugs, if you have issues, if you have anything like that, just come back and let me know. and we can go from there. So the link again is in chat, but I'll post it one last time. And on there, there's a page that has our excuse me. There's a page that has the the ways of supporting the platform. So again, if you're wanting to contribute, either through, I mean, again, it's GitHub, it's open source. So if you want to contribute through code development, be more than happy to do that. And then if you want to also contribute through helping just support the project, there's, like I said, the affiliate links there. There's a PayPal and Patreon. We have merch. I have bought a shirt. They're actually pretty high quality. It's just through Fourth Wall. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it was Flunky bought a white one, and he's going to tie-dye it, which is awesome. So things like that are great ways of supporting it. I think I make like 50 cents or something off of each shirt or something goofy, but just fun ways of doing it. Again, I do this for fun. This started as a project for me to get more familiar with coding, because I had been out of the game for a while, and has since grown into just something that I enjoy offering to the community. It'll always be free. It'll always be open source. It's gotten a little bit easier now that things like AI programming are in the mix. So debugging is a lot quicker when you can use AI have AI help you debug. So I do use AI coding in here a little bit. If I wish I could have started from the ground up with it. It would have been probably a little bit less challenging at the beginning, but it's great to see where it's came as well. So all right, if there's no other questions, I appreciate everybody for joining. If you're not following me, go ahead and follow. I don't stream very often. I kind of want to get following more, but again, I appreciate everybody for joining today. I hope to see you in the Discord, I guess is the best way of saying it. So I really kind of want to hear what you think, and I want to make this project, if there wasn't community need for this project, I would not be working on it. Yeah, just let me know. I'll be here. I'll be around. I'll be in people's chats. We'll go ahead and raid over to Pez Liz, because I know she was streaming, and we'll check out some cool makes that people have been doing. And I hope everybody has a great Sunday. For those of you that have an extended weekend because of the holiday in the U.S. tomorrow, hopefully everybody has a great day. I know ours is considered an International Day of Service, so I get to go and contribute to the community. But whatever your plans are, have a great day and have a good evening, and hope to see you around. Let's go ahead and start the raid. Please stick around. Again, we'll go check out Liz. She's showing off some makes, and we'll say hi to her and check out some cool things. See ya. Let's see.